Welcome, everyone. I'm Angelo Robles to the Angelo Robles podcast. I'm also the founder and CEO at FamilyOffice Association, which I want to give some context to the discussions that I have in the podcast relative to where I'm coming from and how it could be valuable to our audience. I help global families and their family offices solve problems, procure positive future outcomes, and prepare for intergenerational necessity. It's vital for families and their family offices to understand their vulnerabilities and become more resilient so they can mitigate risk and prevail in times of crisis. My experience with some of the wealthiest families in the world has allowed me to distill best practices for discovering purpose, refining vision, governance structures, systems, processes, and culture that successful families and their safeguard family offices need to thrive. Now, that last paragraph that I read actually does tie into the conversation that we're having today. The conversation today is the world is changing at an unprecedented rate. Are you ready? And our special guests today are Joelle Jarvis and Emily Donaldson DeVoto of Mindset Mastery. Ladies, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Angelo.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thank you. And as I noted in a little bit of our preamble, about once or twice a week, we do a little different format as opposed to purely interview and fireside chat. I think it's good to mix things up once in a while, if not more frequently. So this will be, when I kick them off in about a minute, a little bit more of a presentation mode, which is good in many ways from a deeper dive into a subject without interruption. But it's not going to be so long. It will include a visual. So those of you that are on Zoom will get a little bit of a PowerPoint presentation. I'll then segue and ask a couple of questions, but the real value is going to be answering your questions. So the live audience gets the benefit of being interactive with our speakers, and that's going to be a core value of why you should want to be live. Also, per an issue on my part, Joelle, one of our two great participants, is in her car. So luckily, though, Emily's at a classic location and could control the PowerPoint, but that may cause an issue, a little bit of connection. But let me cross my fingers because Joelle, right now on your phone in your car, somehow it sounds shockingly good. So it must be very good acoustics. So I'm gonna hope that holds up. So a little bit on that note, I noticed I'm looking at the commentary that I just said, discovering purpose, refining vision, governance, structures, systems, processes, and culture. Now, when I say that, I'm talking about it from the perspective of family business, family offices, both from the family side and the executive side, and to some degree, even those that service the community, and how that all comes together and the dynamic of what's going on during COVID and everything that was going to happen, that is happening now with technology. Everything is rapidly changing. Again, this summer with my interviews with multi-billion-dollar families, in general, they're heads of their SFOs, and these are the best of the best, like among the top probably 30 to 50 family office executives in the world. They all said to a T, they needed to reflect, to adapt. They did so quickly, but not so quickly. They knew it was going to take into a couple of weeks or months, and they're happy that they did it. They needed to reinvent their engagement, their family businesses, their family office, how they engage with family, and how they could remain every bit as effective, if not more effective, yet become more efficient during a challenging time. And to some degree, that, again, the irony, I didn't plan it this way, is a little bit of some of the things that Emily and Joelle are going to talk about. So on that note, to give a little bit of framing to the discussion, I'm going to kick it off to Joelle, and then her and Emily will take it from here. Joelle?
Thank you, Angelo. Yes, I am in my car, which kind of is apropos for our topic today, too, because one of the things that we're going to really speak to is the importance of really building resiliency. If we were going to look at kind of what the key takeaway is from this period of time, I would say it's resiliency. It's the ability to get yourself centered quickly, keep your eyes on what you're really trying to accomplish, and be able to adjust real time. So Emily and I are going to get into some of our different principles that we use for coaching today. But what we also really want to do, we have two outcomes for today. One is to give you some distinctions that we use with our clients that we think will really help you to get a different perspective of how to look at this time, and also to really understand what the value of coaching is. Not so much because we're trying to get you to come and sign up for coaching with us, but because we really want you to understand what the value of coaching is in general. And oftentimes, some of our most successful clients are the people who initially resisted coaching the most. And once they realize the value of it, because the more successful you become, the more your decisions have a financial impact, the more your decisions have an impact to your family and to other people in your environment, the more important your ability to be able to bounce back and make great decisions is. And at a time like this, we talked about this before. We did a podcast back in the beginning of COVID, Finding Solid Ground in a Shaky World. And, at that time, a lot of us thought that this COVID situation was going to be very short term. We were just going to ride it out for a few months. And lo and behold, here we are 6 months later, and we're still kind of figuring out how to work through the system. So a lot of the things that we're talking about today are evergreen. They're consistent across the board, but they're particularly critical at times like this.
Yeah, and Joelle, I just want to add one piece to that too, because something that I'm finding with my clients right now is we have this, especially if we're high performers and are required to really step up and be a leader, either in our family or in our professional life. We have this ability, we have this store already of resiliency, and we just think, okay, I'll just power through. Well, we've been powering through for 6 months now, and a lot of people are they're depleting their pool of resiliency, right? It's like, how much longer can I just power through? And so, Angelo, to your point, thinking about those people in those family offices and even leaders of organizations who stopped at the beginning of COVID to really reflect and adapt, if that wasn't done, or it's a good time to dive into that again, because we have to look forward. I mean, a lot of people were super optimistic, myself included, thinking, okay, for 6 months, yeah, we need to shift. This is an opportunity to rethink strategy. It's an opportunity to take a look at our vision and move forward. But things are not over. Things are not back to normal. They're not even to the new normal, right? We really have to be able to start looking deeper at a longer play and say, okay, now we maybe need to reflect and adapt again. What if this isn't over by the end of this year? What if it lingers into next year? How can we continue to evolve? Because powering through doesn't work anymore. So I'm going to start the PowerPoint now, Joelle, for you to begin to take it off.
Perfect. I can't see it. Maybe I will in a moment.
It's coming.
Let's see. Okay. Yay. Perfect. All right. So as we said, we are the Mindset Partnership, and we really do specialize in whole life coaching. Most of our clients are leaders in business. They're partners in venture capital, private equity. They're representatives of family offices. They're people who are executives at the top of their game, founders, entrepreneurs. So we really specialize in people who are really ready to take their life to a higher level and are really committed to doing it in a sustainable and consistent way.
And I'm having a challenge, but I will be with you in just a second, moving the slide forward. Sorry.
Technical difficulties. I could sing, but that would be very upsetting for people.
Here we go. Okay.
Okay, perfect.
So
I'm just good.
Go ahead, Joelle.
Coaching can help you in a bunch of ways. Like I said, we have two outcomes. One is to give you some real skills and tools, but the second is to really get you excited about and open to having some support in your life. So coaching can help you to manage your mindset your actions, and your behaviors consistently with purpose, being intentional about what you're doing.
It also helps to provide perspective. And Angelo, you mentioned this as well. Your opening kind of covered a lot of the topics that we're going to be hitting on today. And that is really discovering your purpose and refining your vision. And this is something that we spend a lot of time.
Oops, Emily, you might have froze up a little bit.
Is she back?
Off and move the needle forward without really helping you get up perspective. Am I back? Am
You're
I back?
back. I would say for about 20 seconds, it was more off than on, and that could happen sometimes in Wi Fi networks. But it's sounding pretty good now. Maybe you could start that from the beginning about 30, 40 seconds ago.
Sure, I apologize. We typically have a very stable network here. I don't know what's going on. Um, what I was saying is going back to your point, Angelo. Some of the things that you mentioned at the very beginning of the call are what we're going to talk about today, and that is the importance of discovering purpose and refining your vision. And this really applies when talking about a new perspective. Some coaches really focus on, here's your task list, here's what you need to do to move the needle forward. We are very intentional in helping people go up to that 30,000 foot view and get new perspective and develop the critical thinking and decision making necessary to really push towards the new vision and push towards that evolving vision that we need to be engaging in now for what's going on now and what the world's going to look like afterwards, right? I don't think any of us think that we're going to go back to any way of doing things. There might be things that we've done in the past that we can bring to the forward to the future again. But to think that things are going to go back to some old way of being and doing is not the right perspective, right? We really need to be looking forward. So that's one of the things that coaching can do, not only for you as an individual and how you need to be showing up and how you need to be adapting, but also your family and your family office organization, right? As well as other businesses that you're involved in.
So another piece, and again, so these are things that coaching gives you. These are all things we all need to be working on all the time. So again, these are things that, of course, we all want to be mastering on our own, but it's really, really hard. So coaching helps to make it a lot easier. So following on to the perspective, being able to interrupt limiting patterns of belief and behaviors. And that can be something that's interpersonal with your spouse, with your partner, where you have this way that you get on a runaway freight train, whether it's a tone of voice or a scenario or a situation. It could be a limiting pattern of beliefs or behaviors about the world, about what's going to happen after COVID, how things are going to be, what's going to be different in your business, what's it going to be like for your kids who are graduating college, are they going to have a career, what's going to happen next. So there's a lot of things that we can look at as far as a limiting pattern of belief or behavior, and we can, there's a very big difference between having an emotion or having a belief or having a behavior, or that belief, behavior, or emotion having us. So coaching allows you to really to break that chain.
Yep. I'm going to jump down to improving relationships and communication. Joelle and I come from a perspective that relationships are everything, right? We are humans. We are a very communal species. We need to have relationships, and it's really helpful if our relationships work. And due to the pressures of COVID, either isolation or spending far too much time with those that we love and admire, if a relationship was challenging before COVID, possibly it's incredibly challenging now. And kind of one of the jokes, not jokes, in the helping profession right now is at the end of this, there are going to be a lot of babies and a lot of divorces. And so one of the things that coaching really can provide is if those relationships are not working, or there's a lot of tension in those relationships, that's something that a really good coach can help you with by either working with just you or working with your partner as well, and then working with you together. That's really important right now, especially in developing relationships professionally and personally.
Yeah, and just adding on to that too, again, COVID has also provided a lot of opportunities. Some of us are spending more time with our kids than we've been able to in a long time, with our family members, with our spouses. We're not spending time traveling and being on the road and running errands and all those things. So there are some gifts in that as well. And it's an opportunity to really reset some of those relationships and get them on a better course so that that's sustainable for the future. And I'm going to jump around too, like Emily did, and I'm going to go on to harnessing drive and passion to be more engaged. And this is why this is interesting for people in our family office world as well, is many of the people, and I coach some of them, Emily does as well, they've already achieved an amazing level of success. They're already at a point where it can run on autopilot. So what took their passion and drive and energy and excitement to get it to where it is today, now it doesn't really require a lot of their energy and passion and excitement to keep it going. So another thing that coaching can do is to really help you to figure out what's next, what's going to keep driving you, what's going to get you waking up early in the morning. And again, this break during COVID is a fabulous time to be thinking about that. What do you want to add? I have one client who's very successful, private equity world. He's been doing what he does for a long time. He loves what he does, doesn't want to change, but he's bored because he needs something else to do. And for a while when COVID first hit, it was kind of exciting. He had a lot of things to think about. And so it kind of got him back into the zone again. But then things have calmed down again. So now he's looking for something he can really sink his teeth into. So that's something that's really important that you can discover through great coaching as well.
Yeah, we talk about the 2 Bs, right, Joelle? We talk about burnout and boredom, and both of those can unwind someone pretty quickly, right? Boredom is just as much of a sticking point or chokehold as burnout is.
And those are both really big issues during COVID. And when you're bored in your life or you're bored in work, who do you take it out on? The people you're closest to. And right now, the people who are around you all the time are the people you're closest to, and they're going to get the brunt of it. So if you're feeling not stimulated enough, disengaged, whatever, that's going to come out. It's going to come out to your family.
Right, exactly, because what you're missing is the challenge, right? You're missing that challenge. You're missing the excitement. You're missing the variety. You're missing the stepping up every day, that drive, that passion. And so that energy unchanneled can just lash out, right? Because you're trying to create something. You're trying to create some energy somewhere. And so you could be creating some energy with your family or with your key people in your life that maybe is not great energy. So let's figure out where you can start to really harness that. I'm going to move on to the next slide, Joelle, because I think that we've covered a lot of this so far.
Perfect. Okay, so we're going to talk about really kind of what our approach is. And again, these are all things that we do in coaching, but for everyone who's on the call or everyone who's listening to this, these are all things you can do at home. So, don't be afraid to try this at home, unlike the commercials, right? So the first thing that we work on with our clients, as Emily was saying, to really develop a clear vision. Are you going to go back one, Em?
Sure.
The second piece is to make sure that everybody has a really good pre-game strategy. What does that mean? It means a way that you can get yourself the way you need to be every day in a thoughtful and intentional way, so you're not leaving things up to chance. The third piece is having an actionable game plan, not a to-do list. People can be extremely busy and completely ineffective. So it's really about having an actionable game plan that is based on what matters most to you in your life, what your priorities are, not what other people want from you, not what someone else is putting in front of you, but what really matters most to you. The fourth piece is managing to that plan, making sure that those important things are happening first and that you're making sure that you're doing everything that you can to get those things to happen immediately before you start putting anything else into your plan. And hold on, I lost my image for a second. And then the last piece is to maintain and master. Because to Emily's point, you can't just keep powering through. It's got to be sustainable. And one of the things, again, I said at the very beginning, the most important thing that we can all really take away from this is resiliency. And part of resiliency is being able to handle change in a sustainable way, because guess what? Things are going to keep changing. It's not over. As long as you're alive, things are going to change. As long as you're alive, there's going to be new things that you're going to have to adapt to. So it's not about sticking to the actions or sticking to the specific items. It's about sticking to the process. It's about having a process for defining your vision, having a way to prep for it every day, having an actionable game plan, being able to manage that plan, and then being able to maintain and master your emotions, your behavior, your thoughts in order to be sustainable.
Yep. And so we're going to dive in here to the clear vision. That's the first one. And again, some of this you can start to do at home. We're just here to provide that extra level if it's tricky for you, or you want somebody to help pitch and catch with you, or you're feeling stuck, right? The first thing that we always encourage our new clients to do is develop a 1 to 3 or 5-year vision, right? This used to be a little bit further out. This vision was a little bit further in the distance, but because things are so volatile right now, we just don't know what's coming down the pike. we've pulled that in for people and it's become a little bit more tangible, right? So there's going to be a lot of adaptability and flexibility in this, but we really want to start by helping people create a clear vision for their life, both personally and professionally. Professionally, we don't operate in a vacuum. Personally, we don't operate in a vacuum. Those two aspects of our life go back and forth all the time. If the wheels are falling off the bus professionally, it's going to impact our personal life. If the wheels are falling off the bus personally, it's going to impact our professional life, right? So we really want to access our thoughts and develop a plan for our vision in both of those areas of our life. Then we ask people to go back and make it really compelling and juicy, right? Really invest in developing this vision using all of their senses so that they can start to actually physically see what it looks like and embody it. And then make sure there's a lot of why for the what, right? Your purpose, like Angelo, going back to what you said in the beginning again, right? It's discovering your purpose and it's refining your vision. Your vision will change over time. Your purpose, your connection to what really it matters to you and how you want to make a difference and leave an impact, that tends not to change too much. And so we really want to make sure that your vision is connected to your why or your purpose, and that your vision is really focused on outcomes versus actions. And essentially what it does is it answers the question, what do you want your life to be about? What do you want your professional life to be about? What do you want your personal life to be about? And how do you want to be experiencing that on a daily basis, right? Do you want to be high pressure and stress and go, go, go all the time? Do you want to balance? And so that's a really good place to start. And so if you haven't in a while taken some time and looked at, hey, what do I want my personal vision to be like? What do I want my professional vision to be like? And then if you have a number of organizations, you can go through and you're a leader in that organization. What do I want this company's vision to be like? If you're a VC or you're working in private equity, these companies that you're working with, you should be working with the leaders on those companies to what do you want? Let's look at what we want the vision for this to be, right? Joelle, do you want to add anything on this slide?
Yeah, just one of the distinctions I think is really powerful for people that can actually change your life today, right this minute, no extra charge, is the difference between just really clearly an outcome and an action. For many of us, we start off with a goal. For example, I use this example all the time. We say, okay, I want to lose weight. We go, okay, well, how am I going to do that? I'm going to run every day. Well, we run every day for a week or 2 weeks or whatever, and then the weather changes or our leg hurts or whatever. We don't feel like running and we stop running. And then was the goal to run, or was the goal to lose weight? The goal was to lose weight, right? How many ways are there to lose weight? An infinite number of ways to lose weight. But what ends up happening is we get attached to the one action or the one vehicle that we're taking. I remember one of the great things Tony Robbins taught me in real time. We were going to climb a mountain in Fiji. We were going to get to the top of this mountain. And as we were getting close to the mountain, I said, Tony, how do we get up there? And he said, don't worry. When you get closer, you'll see the path. And so I think it's really important to remember, you keep your eyes on the prize, your eyes on the vision, your eyes on the goal, and the vehicle may change, the path may change, but the outcome and what you're trying to accomplish does not.
Yeah, especially if you have a strong enough why, right? If the why is strong enough, the will follow.
So the next thing is we talk about pre-gaming. This is so important. You know, they talk about what's the definition of luck, right? It's opportunity meeting preparation. Pre-gaming is your preparation. What does that mean? It means, first of all, figure out what your top priorities are. One of the biggest things that I find with every single one of my clients is their day just disappears. And how does their day disappear? With little crap that doesn't move the needle. It's the phone calls, it's the emails, it's the something someone else asked you to do, it's the quick person you need to get back to. So one of the things that we really encourage our clients to do is focus on what are their top priorities. What are the most important things that they want to accomplish this week to move them closer to their personal or professional vision? So for example, I might be working with a private equity client, and they might have, this week they might have one big rock that they need to accomplish this week might be to work with a founder on their presentation for a new round of fundraising. Another big rock this week might be presenting to an investor group and presenting their presentation. Those are their two most important things they need to accomplish this week. There's 100 million other things that are also going to get done, but those are the most important things. The time to accomplish those things needs to be scheduled first. So the metaphor that we use is, how do you fill up a jar with rocks and sand? If you put the sand in first, you can't fit the rocks in. But if you put the big rocks in, you can pour the sand, and the sand will fill in the space. I promise you, if you put the big rocks in, your time will get filled up with all the other stuff, but put the big rocks in first. And then the next piece of this is, once you get really clear on what the priority is, asking yourself, who do I need to be to do this? Who do I need to be to do this in the most powerful way I can? And that becomes your identity. I am an effective, inspirational leader who communicates well, I'm focused and energized, and I make things happen. That might be my identity. Tony Robbins says the strongest force in human personality is to remain consistent with our identity. If my identity is I'm a procrastinator, I have a hard time getting things done, I have a hard time focusing, I'm not going to have the same kind of impact. So it's really important to focus on the identity that you're committed to embodying in order to make these things happen. And then the last piece of this, and Emily and I talk about this a lot, any of you guys that listen to us on Monday about back to school, routines and rituals. What do routines and rituals do? They smooth the ice, like in curling. I know I tell a lot of stories, but what is curling? In curling, they have the person in front that smooths the ice so that the person that's moving the puck can get traction, right? How do you smooth the ice? You start your day in a better state than you woke up in. You start your day focused on your priorities and your outcomes in a meaningful way. You start your day by asking yourself, what do I need to do to get this thing done? What do I need to do to move this across the finish line? And you focus on those things first. Who do I need to talk to about this? Who needs to know about this? Those are all questions and things that can help you to smooth the ice and to get you to be lucky, right? This opportunity meeting preparation.
Yep. So this is a tool that you can use right now. And I would encourage you, if you're live on this call or if you're at home, I would like you to take a minute and just write down today, right? Who do I need to be today? Another way of asking that question is, how do I need to show up? What are the qualities within myself that I need to bring to the forefront? And I'm going to date myself, but I remember when I got my first stereo, and part of my stereo was this component called an equalizer, right? And it had these little levers on it that you could adjust. And when you adjust the levers, the sound coming out was different. And so for most of us, we get in this habit and we keep our equalizer set to the same thing every single day, right? So we show up and we approach things. We usually have a different setting for when we're under stress, how we set up, but it's actually a choice that you get to shift the levers or the knobs on your equalizer every single day. And so I ask you to write down, what are the 5 or 6 qualities that you need to, in this next week or in this just today, turn up within yourself? Do you need to turn up patience? Do you need to turn up being present? Do you need to turn up being disciplined? Do you need to turn up being courageous? Do you need to turn up being excited? Do you need to turn up being focused? Do you need to turn up? What do you need to turn up? And I want you to write those down, because that's part of developing this routine and ritual to smooth the ice. And then a simple way that you can access that in the morning, and this is taken right from Ben Franklin himself, because he had a code of conduct that he kept in his pocket every single day. And he would reference that code of conduct. You can look it up on the internet. You can reference his code of conduct, and that helped drive how he showed up every day. It helped drive his decision-making process. So if you're working with us, we're going to start at vision, we're going to go to goals, and then we're going to really quickly dive into the qualities and your code of conduct that's going to help inform your identity and your identity piece. But this piece you can do at home. Write down your code of conduct, and then for the next 5 days, every morning when you wake up, you can do it in the shower, you can do it when you're brushing your teeth, you can do it right after your cup of coffee, you can do it while you're doing your walk, walking your dog, whatever you do in the morning. Go through each one of those states and say, I'm being focused, and then stand like you're feeling focused, like tap into that state. Today I'm being focused. Today I'm being present. Today I'm being calm. Today I'm being disciplined. Today I'm being decisive. Today I'm being directed. Today I'm being whatever those are, and start to access those in the morning. What that does is, instead of just starting your day after hitting your snooze down here at this base level, it actually will up level your base level over the day. So as the day comes, you're going to be hitting ups and downs in the day. And if you're down here, your ups will get you halfway, your downs will hit you down in the gutter. But if you start your day here with these routines and rituals, and this is a simple one that you can do, your dips are going to be here and here, but you're always going to be more resourceful than if you don't start the day by priming and smoothing the ice. Actionable game plan. I'm going to let you take this one, Joelle, because Joelle's got this tool called Pomodoros that she loves, that she's so excited about. She loves to share.
I do. So like Emily was saying, so we have kind of our longer term vision goals, which, as we said, are a little bit squishy now because we don't really know when things are happening. So what we're really encouraging people to do is have their longer term vision goal, but then to look at 90-day milestones from where you are now and that ultimate vision. So, we talk a lot about this vision, about what you want your life to be about. That's not necessarily that specific and measurable piece. That's more about, I want to be living a life full of passion and impact. I want to be surrounded by people I love. I want to be in an environment that lights me up, surrounded by nature. I want to be, running the most successful, blah, blah, blah business, whatever. That's kind of our vision. The 90-day milestones are specific and measurable. Those are those pieces that are going to help us ladder up to that vision. So it's really important to be identifying those 90-day milestones. Again, the reason we're doing it in 90 days is because I think that's pretty much what we can all get our arms around right now, as far as what we can kind of see into the future, whether we're wondering whether our kids are going to be at home for school or not, or whether or not we're going to be back in our offices, or if we're going to be able to travel. So I think 90-day sprints, a lot of you guys who are, investors in technology and things like that, you're aware of the sprint process. So we're having everything kind of in a 90-day sprint. And then what we're doing is we're saying, what are the critical actions each week that ladder up to those 90-day goals, those 90-day sprints, looking at, like we talked about in priorities, what is the biggest bang for my buck? What are those actions that are the biggest bang for my buck that are going to get me to accomplish those 90-day specific and measurable goals? And then once you figure out what those actions are, that's where Emily was talking about the magic comes in. So I use a system with my clients called Pomodoros, and it's a very, very high tech and fancy. It was created with that name because the gentleman who started this process used a timer that looked like a tomato. And so the very fancy version of that is Pomodoro. And a Pomodoro is really nothing more than a work block. And those work blocks are either a 55-minute work block with a 50-minute work block with a 10-minute break, or a 25-minute work block with a 5-minute break. And what's really important about those work blocks is that, like we're talking about, if those work blocks are your big rocks, those are the things that you want to get done most importantly, those are your priorities, and you schedule those into your calendar like they are an appointment with yourself. Those work blocks, those Pomodoros, are scheduled to be an appointment with yourself, either 25 minutes with a 5-minute break or 50 minutes with a 10-minute break. Why? Because that's the best way to optimize your brain. And what's really important during that time, you don't check email. You don't answer your phone. You're not reading something that's coming through on a feed. During those work blocks, it's focused time. As a woman, I pride myself. I'm very, very pleased. I'm such a great multitasker. Least efficient thing to be. Great to be able to say, useless to be able to do, right? What's really, really important is to be able to do these concentrated work blocks. The other incredible thing about using Pomodoros and scheduling those appointment times with yourself is that if you follow those appointment times and something happens, you have to make a conscious decision to move that block of time somewhere else, or to not do it, versus just having your day run away with you. So using Pomodoros is really, really helpful. There's a ton of free apps and timers and things that you can use. I recommend to all my clients. If you saw my clients, you would laugh. I have people that manage billions and billions of dollars of assets, and we plan out their week, and they've got their tomato timer and they've got their work blocks on sticky notes, and that's how they plan their week. But it really, really works, because when that predictable surprise shows up, that emergency, you're ready. You go, oh, you know what? This thing came up. That's going to take 3 hours. I'm going to move these 6 Pomodoros that I have for these other things into different places in my week. And now I know that I need to do that. Or you might say, this thing's going to take 3 hours. I've got these 6 Pomodoros here. You know what? 3 of those really need to get done. I can't just stop everything right now and give that 3 hours to this thing that just came across my desk. So working in this way, having this actionable plan that also allows you to see where you're at with these Pomodoros, these work blocks, to be as high efficiency as you can be, but also to be mindful of your time, will dramatically change the quality of your life.
Yeah, and this goes back to, Angela, what you were talking about before about decision making and critical thinking, right? And so if you start with a vision and then you've got these 90-day milestone goals, and then you're looking at your week and saying, okay, what are my big rocks this week? And you're scheduling those big rocks first before your week gets filled up. And then you're really intentional and focused with those work blocks. Your decisions are going to line up for you, because you're doing the things that are moving the needle closer to your vision every single day. And that's one of the tools that we really need to focus on right now, because there's so much distraction. And guess what? As the election gets closer, do you think distractions are going to increase or decrease? Right? It's just going to increase. So for you, this is a really critical time to be thinking about, okay, what do I need to be really focusing on so I don't get sucked up into the fray over the next few months?
And I want to say one more thing about this too, which is really important. And I came up with this in a phone call with someone the other day, and I thought it was really profound, if I say so myself. But one of the things that happens is, in a time of either when things are going really, really well, or when they're super, super stressful, we tend to like throw our plan out the window. And we're either just feeling so good, we're just going with the flow, or we're so stressed that we're head down, tush up, trying to get stuff done. One of the things I really encourage people to do is, the plan that helped you to get successful, you don't want to throw out the plan, because the plan is what got you the result. It's working the plan that's getting you successful. So even if the thing you're trying to accomplish changes, even if the goals change, even if your vision changes, whatever, the framework of the plan still stands. You still want to plan out with your vision. You still want to be prioritizing. Even if that priority is now an emergency that's shown up, you still want to use it in the same construct of the plan. That's what gives you power over your life. You know, a lot of people are talking about how they feel out of control right now. 100% correct. We are all totally, what's going on around us is completely out of our control. And guess what? It always has been. The only thing that's in our control is how we show up and how we handle it. So don't be misled by this idea that things are suddenly spinning out of control. They were always out of control. The difference is now, are you going to control yourself in such a way that you can take advantage of the opportunities, mitigate the downside, and be really effective and be a great leader for yourself and your family? That's what it comes down to. So sorry, I digress. Go ahead, Em.
No, I just want to add one thing to that, and then I want to kind of blast through our remaining slides, because I do want to leave time for questions. This kind of cycles back to what I was talking about in the beginning, and that is this, you know, a lot of my clients right now, a lot of Joelle's clients right now, because one of the things that we do is we actually have a really collaborative approach with our clients. We have weekly meetings where we discuss what's going on with our clients, and we pitch and catch with each other, so that we're also not getting lost and caught up in what's going on with the client. We're getting the ability to go up to that 30,000 foot view, or sometimes even that 60,000 foot view. So we're talking with each other. So some of her clients are going through this as well. But this idea of powering through, we are at our capacity of being able to just power through. We're 6 months in. So the resiliency well is kind of coming down. And what that means is we just don't have the ability to keep powering through without taking the time to fill up. And one of the things that can help us fill up is to really be intentional with how we approach our life. So that is by having a purpose, having a connection to that purpose, which is called our vision, or a pathway to that purpose, right? To fulfilling that purpose, which is our vision, making sure that we have clear goals, making sure that we're doing what we need to tune in every single morning and manage our state so that we can show up the way we want to show up, that's in congruence with our identity of what we hold for ourselves. These are some of the things, in addition to self-care, which, Angelo, is an entire different conversation that maybe we need to have at some point, which is self-care and how to really do that effectively, especially now, so that everybody can fill up that resiliency tank to keep going in this time and other times. Joelle, you want to blast through this just quickly, and then we'll kind of amp up
Yep,
how we're going
absolutely.
through
And
this
I also
slide.
want to just encourage everybody, if you were not on the call on Monday, the tips that we gave people for back to school and how to create boundaries and all of that are really, really effective. And I really encourage everyone to listen to that and download that. Emily made a great PowerPoint that's really, really informational too, that can really help you on your plan. So just as an aside. Last thing we talked about here is managing to the plan. That is your day-to-day sustainability. How do you manage the plan? So let's just break it down. You motivate. What's that? That's your pre-gaming. That's getting yourself in the right state. You mobilize. That's your actions. You mitigate. What's that? That's smoothing the ice. What can you do about predictable surprises? Then you maximize, right? What can I do to make this even better? How can I add more value? You do those things every day, you're going to move the needle on the things that matter. Is that fast enough?
That's fast enough. This
Thank you.
last slide is just more to that point, which is maintain and master, right? And this Joelle talked about. So a lot of times our clients will get to a point where they're like, everything's awesome. And we're like, that's great. And they're like, okay, I'm done. I don't need to do this anymore. And then lo and behold, 3 months later, we're getting a metaphorical knock at the door, like, oh my God, my life fell apart. We're like, well, what did you do? Did you keep up with your systems that you created? No, everything was going really well. And it's like the systems, our goal in coaching is to help you develop structure, systems, and mindset to be able to achieve whatever you want to achieve. And without keeping the structure, the systems, and the mindset going, naturally you're going to go off course, right? Those become like your new compass, your navigation tools. So we want to help you get in and get that structure set up, get those systems set up, get the mindset engaged and keeping it going. And if you do that and you do it over time long enough that will develop new habits and new ways of showing up and approaching challenges and problem solving and being able to do that higher level leadership, critical thinking and decision making. You do that enough times over time, you're going to develop the muscle, and you'll develop the new identity and the habits to really bring that in. But know that if you ever get off track, the first things that you ask are, am I following the structure? Am I following the systems? Am I engaging my mindset? And so that really speaks to the last slide as well. Who is mindset partnership coaching for? People who really want to take their life to another level, people who want to maximize their level of fulfillment, connection, people willing to do the work and to take time to intentionally do that work, people who are looking to tap into something deeper and more connected, people who believe that they actually can impact their life over the long term and the results are up to them. The flip side of that is people who are looking for a silver bullet. I'm sorry, there is no silver bullet. If there was, Joelle and I would be incredibly wealthy. There is not a silver bullet, but there are strategies that can work like a silver bullet that actually don't take that much effort. They just take a different approach to thinking and being. And that's what we can help people with. It's not for people who are looking at their behavior, from a different vantage point and they're not open to looking at it from a different perspective. It's not for people who want to blame, oh, well, this is just COVID, and then after this, I'll be fine. And it's not for people who don't want to evolve. Some coaching is happy to take on folks like that. We really are intentional in what we want to do and help people with. We really believe that your agenda is what matters. Like what you want is what matters, not what we want. We've got a lot of experience to draw on. These are tips. You'll get this slide deck. You don't have to hire us as coaches, but if you're struggling right now and you don't really have a vision for the future and a solid why, work with someone. It doesn't have to be us. Work with someone who can really help you up-level your game and has the ability to help you reflect and adapt, has the ability to go up to that 30,000 foot view and also deal in the minutia to help you create that or rediscover your purpose, refine
Mhm.
your vision, and create the action plan to help you get there and the mindset to support you. So you can look through this on your own. Joelle, you want to
I just want to add one thing. I just want to add one thing to what Emily said, though, as well, is that, for a lot of us too, we're doing fine, and the people around us are having challenges. It could be our spouse, it could be our kids, it could be our employees, it could be our team at work, whatever it is. And, again, remember, the only thing you can control is yourself. However, when one part of a system changes and they keep to those changes consistently, the system will change. You can't get a runaway train unless someone's stoking the coal into the engine. So, and we see this all the time with our clients. We'll have a couple where we're coaching one person, and that one person will start to change their behavior, and it's almost by magic, right? The other person starts to change. And so, we really encourage people, whether it's for yourself, and understand a lot of our clients, there's nothing wrong in their life. Their life is great. However, they want to have another level. They want to be of more use. They want to be of more impact. They want to be more effective with their family. They're sick of having the same arguments with their spouse. Not that it's terrible, but they don't want to spend their energy on that. And especially at times like this, when all of us have really kind of reevaluated a lot about what's important to us. I mean, we're laughing. I'm in my car right now and I'm in the process of moving. Why did I move? Because of COVID. I want to be closer to my son. I want to be closer to my family. That wasn't as much of a priority to me 6 months ago. I was more willing to let it go for a while because it didn't seem like it was that important, right? But what's the biggest thing that happens? We're fear of losing something, right? We want to keep it. So, these are all things that cause us to have different changes and different choices. The other thing I was just going to say quickly too is that, coaching it's ongoing. It's like a workout. And it's not that we're trying to graduate people to not be a client of ours anymore because they've suddenly become so good at it. We still need coaching. I still sign up. I just signed up yesterday for the next Tony Robbins event so I could go and do it virtually. You know why? Because life keeps happening and I keep needing to have to grow and evolve and face it. So, we've all been through our sad stories and our sob stories, and we found our resiliency. Some of you guys who know me, I was widowed very young. I have a son who was 2.5 when he lost his dad. I went through all these trials and tribulations. But the bottom line is, even though all those things were valid and difficult and all those things are true, they don't get me anything now. The only thing that gets me something now is looking at where I am and where I want to go to. And for that, having someone to help you stay on track and remember that is unbelievably valuable. Way more than you could ever spend on the cost of coaching, no matter who you hired. The cost of saving one mistake, one relationship is worth everything. So I just can't emphasize that enough. And not because we're trying to sell you, but because we're trying to get you to really see the value in it, because every single person who's listening to this on this phone call has impact. They have influence. They have means. They have an ability to move the needle, not just in their own life, but in other people's as well. And one of the things that lights us up the most is seeing what happens in your lives when you take this home and you impact your environment. That's what lights us up. That's what gets us excited about what we're doing. So I wanted to just put that in there. I digress. Go ahead, Emily.
Perfect. So we do, Joelle really hit on this. Like, we work with individuals, couples, and families, because family dynamics, especially in family office situations, are incredibly important, right? If the family dynamic is off, there's going to be a struggle, and that puts the entire organization at risk. We also right now are really focusing on helping. Initially, this wasn't one of our offerings for Family Office Association, this adolescent and young adult coaching. There's a lot of struggle going on right now with our adolescents and our young adults. It's a very different world for them and very different than what we had growing up. Always, right? That's always the case, but there are a lot of additional pressures right now and a lot of additional fears. So that is something that we have added into our repertoire. The Help Everyone's at Home Family Dynamic Parenting Coaching. So again, we're going to reference back to the podcast we did earlier this week. There are a couple of things that we can get on the phone and help you really understand in terms of structure and what your kids need depending on their age level, so that you can create a system at home that works for you and everyone. then there's the key leader coaching. So and Joelle mentioned this, you might be great and you might have a vision and you might have goals and you might be really effective and your mindset might be awesome, but there might be people around you that do not have that. And so we can work with those people. It doesn't just have to be a member of the family office itself. The other piece that we incorporate into some of our coaching is DISC and Motivator assessment. So DISC is a behavioral assessment. It really focuses on improving relationships through understanding oneself and others, building on communication strategies and on collaboration tools. So DISC is a different topic in and of itself. Some people are familiar with it. It's been in the corporate and leadership world for a really long time. That is something that we offer through Mindset Partnership, and that is available for individuals, families, family offices, and business organizations. So we can send something out on that for you. That is an offering that we currently have. And just to wrap up, Joelle, you want to take the last slide? Actually, she just maybe popped off. Oh,
nope,
no, there she is.
I'm here. So one of the things that we were talking about yesterday, Emily and I, was like what really makes us different. And we've been very blessed because we both have had, and we didn't talk about this, but we met, we're through working for Tony Robbins, and we're both international trainers for him and taught leadership and coaching and all those pieces. But we were really talking about like what we think makes us so good at what we do and why we've been so fortunate to have such incredible people come to us for coaching. And I think, we kind of looked at our combined client list, and I think our clients manage over $400 billion of assets. And we've been very, very lucky to work with these people. And we're thinking about what really makes the difference. I think one is that we have an unbelievable level of commitment to our clients. Oftentimes, we sometimes care more about them having what they want than they do in the moment. And we'll fight harder for it than they will in the moment. We're very passionate about what we do. And we only work with the people that really, meet the criteria of what we talked about and people that we really connect with because we are in it. We get to know you really, really, really well. Again, so all of our clients are word of mouth. We've been very fortunate. Again, I have one client that brought 6 clients. And very blessed and very, very grateful and privileged to work with incredible people and to have someone in our circle be so influential with their circle that they can just by a conversation have more people come to us. So we're really excited about that. Again, one of the things that makes us separate is we don't coach everybody. We're not like the kind of coach that you would meet at a workshop or whatever. We're very, very niche. Our clients are very high performance. We have an incredible amount of discretion. We learn a lot about a lot of very private things with regards to families and companies and things like that, and we respect that. So that's really important. And then, like Emily said, when you work with one of us, you get both of us. And part of it is too is we really do fall in love with our clients. And when you fall in love with someone, sometimes it's easy to get caught up in their story too. So for each other, it gives us a little bit of a check-in too to make sure that we're seeing things from that 30,000-foot view, and we're not getting caught up in that same story about, oh, so-and-so's wife's just a you-know-what, or so-and-so's dad's a pain, or that company is terrible, or whatever. It's really helpful for us too to keep ourselves from getting kind of lost in the story also, because we're all human. We all do and need to work on these skills across the board. Nobody's immune. People used to ask when I worked for Tony, I'm sure they asked Emily too, doesn't he ever get angry? Doesn't he get upset? Doesn't he get frustrated? I'd say absolutely. The difference between him and most of us is recovery times like this. It doesn't cost him. My son and I have a great expression: don't let it cost you a day. Don't let anything cost you a day. And so Emily and I think, part of our commitment to our clients is to have them not lose days and to have them have their days be laddering up to what matters most to them. So that's us.
Yep. Angelo,
Emily?
I know we're coming right at the end of time. I would love to open up for a few quick questions if you've got them or anybody else who's on the call has them.
Yes, if you could close down the PowerPoint, and I'm going to remind people that via the chat feature, if you have any questions. That was great, by the way, ladies, but if you have any questions, and I'll give that maybe 2 or 3 minutes to simmer and questions to potentially come in while I ask a question or two related to what you said. I mean, I'm reminded now that it's NFL season that the best player in the league, and probably arguably could go down as the best quarterback ever, is Patrick Mahomes. And I remember him saying, about 2 weeks ago, or a week and a half ago, as the NFL was kicking off, that besides the quarterback coach on the team, who's incredible to him, and the coach, who's a great offensive coach and a mentor, but that off season, he has a quarterback coach as well. Is he a better quarterback than his coach? Of course. Does he throw the ball better? Of course. And he makes a truckload more money now that he has a $400 million, 10-year contract. But he was asked, well, then why do you have a coach? He goes, I want to be held accountable and I want someone to give me honest feedback. Because when you're at a certain level, sometimes people don't tell you, at least from their perspective, the truth. They try to sugarcoat it because maybe you're paying them. They don't want to ruin that gravy train. So again, even the best people in the world that are probably trending to be a billionaire, in his case, in time, are people that use coaches. And thank you for pointing out some parts of my open. You make me more confident now about leaving it in. But among the most common things, and I answered this in an interview, what is it like to run a multi-billion-dollar family office? A lot of it is solving problems. Well, Angelo, how are problems solved? And I'm probably going to turn that question back to you. I think as a skill, critical thinking, some of it could be inherent, but I think a lot of it is learned. And I think having, like you said, a process to an outcome, having values, having a vision, having a system and process, things that you could fall back on, coupled with critical thinking, a beginner's mindset, and a Rolodex of people that are probably smarter than you, at least at certain things. Everyone is better than you at something. Someone who may be just a terrible person who's in jail, I don't know, maybe they play chess every day and they're fantastic at playing chess. There's something you could learn from them on that. So when it comes to the big issue of our world is changing so much and I'm getting problems thrown at me every day, solving problems, what are some of the best steps that someone could take to solve problems?
So I think one of the things that stands out to me, Angelo, in that case is having a solid center and knowing really what your purpose is, what your why is, and what your vision is, so that you have that internal compass that's set. That's part of it. So that any new opportunity or accident or issue that comes in, you have something to throw that against and say, does this move me forward? Is this a distraction? Is this oftentimes with high performers, I have them keep 3 different lists, right, of opportunities and issues that come up. And honestly, higher performers have more opportunities come to them than people who are not high performers, right? And so it's really important to be able to discern and say, is this a no? Is this maybe something cool, but it's not even in my wheelhouse. It doesn't really fit to my why, my purpose. And it definitely doesn't fit into my vision. Is this a yes? This is something that feeds right into what I'm focused on now. It maybe feeds into those 90-day goals, those stair-step goals. Or is this a yes, maybe later kind of opportunity or issue that's coming up? So this is something that I could address in the future and evaluate and see if it fits in right now. So I think really to answer your question, it's having that solid internal compass. What am I about? What is my purpose? And what is my vision? So I can throw whatever's coming at me against that. The other piece of it is, given this is my purpose and given this is my vision, what is my identity that I hold for myself? And how do I need to show up to face what's coming at me, right? And not get thrown off and just fall into reaction, right? The more time you spend in doing that pre-game planning, the less you'll react to things because you are solid in your center. Does that help answer that question?
Yes, I'm going to have a follow-up to that. And again, we're encouraging people to ask questions via the chat feature. I do see that 2 new people came on. I transferred them to the panelist position. I'm assuming, given that we're a little after the top of the hour, you guys might have thought that it just started. So we are in kind of a Q&A phase. But if that is the case, I do have good news for you. It's being recorded. from multiple different perspectives. One of it is Zoom Cloud. That means in about 1 more hour, I'll have the complete video and audio recording. Those that came in late that would like to get it at the moment, I would say in about 1 more hour, 4 p.m. Eastern or later, simply email me and I'll forward you what I get from Zoom, and you could watch or listen to it right there. So you don't even have to wait a couple of days until it's a little bit more formally polished and up on YouTube. I mentioned this summer that I spoke to many of those executives running, gigantic single family offices, and we spoke about goals. And he chuckled, and I've heard this before, so I wasn't surprised. Angelo, I work for a family that is like king of the world. Yeah, we talk a lot, we communicate, we have goals, and often, honestly, those goals change. Not even COVID-19, but for sure that. But there's just, it's their family office, it's their whim if they change their mind the next day. So not being too rigid and not being so locked in. And one of them gave the example, they were effectively a attorney that focused on a lot of deal flow and direct deals. And he's like, we have an issue with a golf course that our principal is building in the Caribbean, and it got held up for political reasons. And I don't know much about that, but I have to solve that problem. That means I have to go there and probably have to meet with strategic political leaders. And I'm not saying to pay them off or anything like that, but to understand what their problem is and how we could address it and do right. So I guess my question is, you may have a goal that looks great. You're going to set a process to an outcome and look to accomplish it. But what happens when the person who employs and pays you changes that goal frequently, and you're always needing to adapt and do different things that you may not have a skill set for, yet somehow you still have to do a good job?
I can address that, I think. So first thing is we talk about predictable surprises. So if you're in a situation where you are working for a family office or an individual or even part of a team where they tend to change the plan a lot, they tend to get, a new idea or a bright shiny object, or they get involved in a cause or whatever that is. And that needs to then become part of your plan. So your goal becomes something to be like, to be an adaptable, effective, partner, or to be an adaptable, effective team member who's able to do, to be able to change on a dime, who's able to meet the rising needs of the family, who's able to bring in the right resources. So part of our goal setting and our planning can be to incorporate some of those pieces. But the other thing, and this also relates to your prior question, is asking yourself the question, what's the problem I'm really trying to solve? So, a lot of things are getting thrown at us. A lot of our family offices, I have one client who is a partner at a venture capital firm. He also is the head of his single family office, which not only is his own family, but he also handles the prior generation. So he's next gen, but he runs the whole family office because the patriarch passed away. The mom doesn't run the family office. And he's also running the philanthropic organization that the in-laws founded. So he has a lot of things going on that were thrown at him during COVID. And so what's really been happening for him is just what Emily and I were talking about. You go back to the system. What's the vision, the longer term vision? What are the 90-day goals and outcomes? What are the priorities? What are the actions that you're going to take? They're going to ladder you up to those things. So again, it always comes down, the subject matter can change, the circumstances can change, the system stays the same. And even if that goal is incorporating someone else's whims and someone else's needs, the system still stands.
Excellent. And I don't think I notice any Q&A, and it was a very encompassing and wonderful presentation. I'm glad I had a chance to learn and ask, some of my questions. And again, from my perspective, as I noted in my open and in dealing with families and their family office executives, I noted the big three to me was kind of solving problems, procuring positive future outcomes, which is kind of hard because you don't know what may be coming around the corner and is going to happen in the future. And that relates a little bit to being anti-fragile. We don't have enough time to dive deeply into that. And preparing for intergenerational necessity, another topic that perhaps, ladies, we could dive into the transitions within the family, which is usually the number one thing that causes families that's family dynamic to not allow the family wealth to go past 3 generations. So much to discuss. And yes, I also agree, like what you said, when we do have a vaccine and 70% of the population has it, likely sometime, which could be later next year, it's not like things are going to snap back to the way they used to be. This has gone on too long. It's changed forever. And some of it is sad and rather bad, but there are parts of it that we're needing to change and happen and are kind of good. I use the acronym BCD: blame, complain, defend. Whenever you're doing any of those 3 things, it's bad. And I completely agree. Another acronym, ERO, event plus response equals outcome. The only one you have 100% control over is the one in the middle, the R, your response, how you feel and how you react. And those are all things that, again, a coach, a mentor, and I recommend for even the most talented executives taking a senior role in SFO that they have mentors, that they have people that could have a different perspective and, like what Patrick Mahomes' coach, give critical feedback to because that's how they are. These are all great issues, really, really important. You guys did a fantastic job. We'd love to have you back multiple times, maybe after the election, and certain things on family transition. Like I said earlier, you did show it in the slide, but for those that will hear this, Joelle, how could people reach out to you and Emily via email or your website?
So the company is Mindset Partnership. So the website is mindsetpartnership.com. And you can reach Emily at mindsetpartnership.com. And you can reach me at Joelle at mindsetpartnership.com.
That is easy enough. Thank you so much, ladies. And everyone, I'm Angelo Robles. I'm the host of the Angelo Robles podcast and founder and CEO at FamilyOffice Association, a global membership organization dedicated to successful families and their family offices, doing significant proprietary content, masterclasses, programming, tremendous amounts, like hundreds a year of digital programming. And you can check us out on our new site, FamilyOfficeAssociation.com. And my direct email is Angelo at FamilyOfficeAssociation.com. I'm also very, very active on social media, from Instagram to YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, and others. You could find me. Maybe one day even TikTok. We'll see. On that note, everyone, I'm Angelo Robles. Emily and Joelle, thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.